are you? Welcome back to another live here. My name is Kurt Von Onen, and I just wanted to share with you that our new messaging is yielding results. And if you're a business owner, I want to encourage you to take a look at the type of messaging that you're sharing with prospective clients, with prospective leads. And I want to share with you kind of how we're kind of looking at this and we're going, okay. Now, and I've had a couple of things. I've had a couple of things occur over the last couple of years that have led me to think, okay, I need to try this. I need to try this. I need to try this. And then we come across, I hate to say a magic solution, but and it's a solution that's contrary to our human thinking. And so bear with me a little bit. I'm going to jump into a screen share, and I just want to share some of the cool things that we have seen going on here with Mañana No Mas, and we're an online digital agency. So, depending on what business you're in, maybe you're going to say, "Oh, that doesn't apply to us." I want you to stick with me on this. Stick with me, and like, share, follow, all that fun stuff. But stick with me in this live so that I can share with you honestly what I think is really starting to drive marketable success in the way that we are doing things, and I'll share with you exactly how we're doing it, right? So I don't want you to think that there is an inobtainable thing or something like that. And I'm not selling you a course on this. I'm just sharing with you what's working right now. So let's jump into a screen share. The first thing that I want to show you is the Art of Makeup. The Art of Makeup is a website that we designed. We put this together for our client. It is a phenomenal website. And part of what makes the website phenomenal is the imagery that the client was able to supply. It's super awesome when clients can give you good images, good videos, good content to make things happen. And Art of Makeup came through. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. The Art of Makeup project, it went about 12 months too long for my tastes. Simple things like this hero video. This was one of the things I was like, I don't think we should put a video there. You'll notice when you first go to theartofmakeup.com, it comes up as like what looks like a picture, and it sits there for a good long time. And then it'll start to play. It's a video, but the way that a video works in the hero image here, it kind of has to like download to play. And so there's a little bit of a lurch there. But the good news is that it comes up with the image of this girl right here, but it comes up with the image before it begins to play. So it's not just a blank screen, which is great. This website we sold a couple of years ago. Okay. And this website, when we sold this website, we gathered that the customer was asking us certain questions, right? Like, well, what platform are you going to build on, and what plugins do we get, and how vibrant is the hosting? And we would hear those questions and we would go into descriptions. We would go into what we assumed everyone knew. Okay. And if you're listening now, if you're following now, go ahead and put comments in, ask questions, feel free to ask. But I just wanted to touch on this. We sold this website a couple of years ago, started working with the client, and then the unabounding questions and clarifications came in throughout the process. All right. So I just want to I'm trying to set a stage for you right there. Okay. Now, here's where things went a little bit differently. Common Thriving. I'm going to share this tab. This is a local website here to me in Kansas, owned by wonderful person. Joel is a wonderful person. So he's our customer here. And with Joel, we run the WordPress meetup in our town. And Joel came to that WordPress meetup, once a month. He would come and he would hang out. There's Joel right there. And he would ask questions. Now, Joel is not a dumb person. Joel's background, he's a custom software developer. Okay. So he's not a moron by any stretch. But he doesn't have 22 years of WordPress experience either. And so we kind of have to put things into a space that says, okay, I want to keep things on a budget. I want to keep things simple. I want to just get things launched. And so we've got a couple of things like schedule a strategy call That's going to go right to, it's going to open up in a new tab here, but let's get to that. It's going to go right to a scheduling tool. This scheduling tool is not Calendly. This scheduling tool is part of his website, right? And so all of the data that comes in through scheduling, through messaging, through all that stuff, it stays in his website. And he owns all of the data. He owns all of the emails, all of the stuff. And it's not like he has to fight with some SaaS platform to try and download a list of his customers. He can just go into his website, export, boom, done. And it'll export with all of the forms that they've filled out, any of the courses that they've signed up for, any appointments that they have made. Everything's in there for him, okay? Now, I want you to think about this. I talked to you about Art of Makeup was kind of a complicated sale. What do we get? How's this? What's it built on? What tools? What plugins? What this? What that? And then Common Thriving was a little different. Came to WordPress meetups, got a little bit of a base education, a little bit of a base idea of what was going on, and then was just like, okay, cool, I want to do this. And we took him from Squarespace to WordPress, and he's very, very happy. Now I want to talk to you about a couple of other projects. Hutch Composite. Hutch Composite is the local mountain bike team in Hutchinson, Kansas. That's why it's called Hutch Composites. Okay. In Hutchinson, the abbreviation's Hutch. So a lot of people say, oh, welcome to Hutch, welcome to Hutch. So Hutch Composites. Newsflash, I'm a coach on this team. So I've got an inside track on what people do. Here's my son actually competing. This was 2 seasons ago. He was competing at Lake Wilson. And we've got it right here. So how do you get involved? How do you join the team? We've added some elements to this site recently. So we have like the roster, right, of all the riders that were in the roster, the schedule for the races that we ran in 2025, services, resources, donate or pay. This is new. We just added, you can make a donation, you can pay. We have a fundraising campaign that goes through WP Give or Give WP. Not that you care, right? That's not what this talks about. Pay for the fees to be on the team. And we have a scholarship program. And so with the scholarship program, we've literally just put that scholarship program to a request form. And that request form goes right here. People can fill that out, let us know a little bit about their student, and then we can submit that for a possibility to add them to the team. I want to stress, with Hutch Composite, we didn't have any discussion about what platform is it going to be built on, blah, blah, blah. Here's the questions that we get, okay, from an agency perspective. Hey, if someone fills out that form, who gets the form? Well, I get the form. Do you want to get the form? I can notify or redirect the form to anybody on the board. And then they go, okay, that's great. Just need to know. Like, that's it. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about where the stuff is. I'm going to take you to Hendrix Motorsports. Hendrix Motorsports, this is another one of our websites. This is if you're into racing, you know the name Hendrix. So Hendrix Motorsports, they're part of the Mazda Cup series, obviously, but they also run a full-fledged race shop down in Florida. And so they get involved with these. Oh, there's Kimberly right there. So this is the lady that owns the team, that owns the business. They get involved in sports car, prototype, machining, suspension work, brakes. Team Ferrari uses their facility as like a home base when they're in Florida. And so it's really cool to have them be part of us. But here's the deal. They focus on race cars. They don't care about the website. I mean, quite literally, when I talked to Kimberly, she was like, I really don't want to have to care about the website. I just want to know that the website works. And we really turned a corner when we sold the Hendrix. Because when we sold the Hendrix, I purposely didn't go into any discussion about anything, really. Just said, yeah, you want a website? This is what we'll do. It'll be like a standard brochure website. We'll put your imagery in there. We'll put your content in there. And then if you want, we'll teach you how to add content to it. And if you don't want to and you want to use us for that in the future, you can do that. And they've been hosting with us now for about a year. Last one, Tom and Dan's. Tom and Dan's right here, Expert Tire Services. Boom. Great shop, here local. We're actually in the process of building this website for them. And they did something really cool. They diagnosed my wife's car for free. So when we went to visit them, we said, hey, you diagnosed my wife's car for free. That's kind of unusual. That's not the way the car business usually works. And then they kind of explained their code of ethics, right? The way that they do things as a business. And so I said to them, I said, hey, well, I noticed you guys don't have a website. And they said, well, we are, um, we're experts with cars. We're not experts with the internet. And we want to stick with, we want to stay in our wheelhouse. Hey, perfect. How about this? You diagnose my wife's car for free. I'll build you a website for free if you can just cover the hosting and maintenance. Hosting and maintenance is about $80 a month. He said, that sounds great. Boom, done. No conversation about, what tools, what platform, what is it based on, any of that kind of stuff. And this is what I want to go back to. Let me come back over here to the screen. No more screen sharing. This is what I want to come back to. When I opened up this call, I said there is some magic, right? There is some magic. There's like, so what am I doing that is creating this flow of consumer? What am I doing in business that's we are now doing as an agency, we're doing a website, a business directory for a whole town, just a little bit out of the town that I live in. It's called Pleasant View. And so Pleasant View is a directory of businesses in this little kind of like commercial space that is a town. And they said, hey, we need a business directory where all of our businesses can be listed in the directory. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. But let me tell you this. When I went to the first meeting, I was like, well, our agency focuses largely on WordPress, and these are the reasons, and this is how open source works. But okay, who in that room cared about open source or how WordPress works? Nobody did. And I had to slap myself on the wrist and I had to say, Kurt, drive to simplicity. And here's where I'm really going with this. And bear with me, because I think that you can take this example and you can run this into almost any industry. We live in a world of artificial intelligence. We live in a world where now everybody is some kind of heightened expert on something for some reason. It's annoying to say the least, but it's dangerous in other respects. For instance, let's say that you are selling motorcycles. You have a dealership, you sell motorcycles. You have salespeople that sell motorcycles. They're babysitting the showroom. Customers come in and say, "Oh, I want to look at the Hurricane 6000." Okay, so salesman says, "Great, we have one of those. Let me pull it out so you can see it." And then the customer just starts asking a bunch of starts asking a bunch of irrelevant questions. What compound are the tires made out of? Are the brakes organic or sintered metal? Are these steel braided brake lines? Are these Kevlar brake lines? The salesperson's like, I guess I can look that up for you. I'm not sure. It's not part of the sales material. Oh, I thought I was dealing with someone that knew the product. Like, you see how that can happen right there? Whereas if we think about things legitimately, a real customer that wants to buy a Hurricane 6000, but by the way, that's not a real thing. Customer comes in, they really want to buy a Hurricane 6000. They're going to be like, can I sit on it? Is it comfortable? Are the controls easy to reach, and are the controls comfortable? Hey, I read that this thing makes this much power. Is that true? Have you ridden one? Have you, does it brake and turn well? Like, that's what people are focused on. They don't care about, like, well, the center of gravity is at 49% front and 51% rear. No, some people care about the little details. For instance, when you talk about sports, you'll identify people. There's people that are like, hey, that was a great game on Monday, right? And then there's other people like, well, so and so rushed for so many yards, and so. Okay, those people are a little off over here. Okay, but the mainstream of our community is like, hey, that was a great game on Monday. We need to get back to simplicity in our communication when we're dealing person to person. Here's what I've noticed. When I start going down some tech row, when I start going down some tech pathway of storytelling about how our agency was born and how we're going to build their website, we're going to use these tools and these plugins and these subscription rates and all these things. what the customer is hearing is wah, 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 wah. It creates confusion, and it creates a space for the client to go, just not too sure about this. Just not too sure about this. Whereas when someone says, we really need a website, and I say, great, we can do that for you. Oh, I answer the questions they have. I don't inject questions into them. Let me say that again, just so that you understand where I'm going with this. I answer the questions they have rather than inject questions into them. And so it's not that I'm trying to hide the truth. I'm not trying to put a veil over what we do. But I have noticed in a world where information flows around like crazy, more and more people aren't into it. That sounds weird. But let's go back to this. Let me go back to the simplest of things. If you're old like me, you might remember the phone number that you grew up with. For example, the phone number to my mother's house growing up was area code 215-886-9806. And my dad used to say it was Turner 6, right? Which I thought was absolutely stupid. But he would say, 886-9806. And so why do I remember that? Because when I was young, we had to remember those things. I still remember John McParlin's phone number. I still remember Charlie Bria's phone number. I still remember a girl's phone number from the bus that I never went out with. But I remember her phone number. All right? That is the way that we were wired before. We knew things. We knew addresses. We knew street names. We would drive around and go, oh yeah, go down to Dartmouth, hang a left. When you get to Easton, hang a right. That's going to take you to Lafayette. When at Lafayette, nowadays, all we know is ding, turn left, ding, 400 yards, turn. Okay. I'm not saying that that's negative. I'm not trying to complain about the ease that technology has put in our lives. Don't go down this path. But here's what I'm trying to communicate with you from a sales perspective. All of this stuff that people say they need to know about, or that they have these questions about, or when you think you're adding value to the conversation by giving them extra details about how you do your work, there's just so much out there. A lot of it just goes, and they don't care. Ask questions. Like in my situation, I'm making websites for people. So I'm going to say, hey, do you need a web form for people to be able to contact you through the website? Yes. Tick that box. I'm not going to say, is it okay if I build it with this tool and it costs this much per year? And they don't care about that. Is the website going to have a form that people can fill in? Great. Is my phone number going to be on the website? Great. Can I add like a blog post to it? Can I add updates to the website? Yeah, here's where you do that. Like, boom. What features do you want on the website? Don't worry about how it happens. But what features do you need on the website? I can remember way back when I was like 19, got my first job selling cars. And I was working at a Dodge dealership. It was an old family Dodge dealership in Hatboro, Pennsylvania. It was kind of a fun place. And that's where I got my feet wet. And, does this come with all season radials? Okay. Stupid question to think about now, right? To think about this in 2025, that's a dumb question. But in 1985 or 86, that was a relevant question. They still had bias ply tires that they would put on cars back then. So does this come with all season radials? Yeah, it comes with radial tires. Absolutely. Now, does it come with Goodyear, blah, 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 this size, this? Nobody cares. Answer the questions they have. Don't inject questions into them. And here's what I've noticed talking to sales professionals lately. It's like people say they want all the information. People say they want to be talked to like an equitable human being. People say they're tired of being talked down to. And you interpret that as a salesperson of, well, they're smart and I got to give them all the information I got. And you start just peppering them with facts. The talking down part that people complain about is you peppering them with facts, because you know everything and you're just going to pepper stuff at them and you're going to hit them with enough facts until they're confused and they make a purchase. And that's the way people feel. And we have to go back to, how do people want to be communicated with? And so I'm opening up this live today with the idea of, hey, new messaging is yielding results. The new messaging is yielding results. At the beginning of this session, if you want to go back and watch the replay, if you're coming in late, I walked you through a series of websites where I could tell you, we got this job this way, we got this job this way. And I have been able to monitor sales technique with results, sales technique with results. And I'm here to tell you, the simpler the delivery, the better the results. Now, we have a local package that we give to startup businesses in our local area. It's just $200 a month for the first year, and then we bump it down to where they only have to cover hosting and maintenance going forward. So for our local startup companies, we really believe in coming alongside of them as local neighbors and partnering with them on their sites. We don't give them a ton of technology in there, right? We answer their requirements. They need a 5-page brochure style website, a web form, maybe a CRM tool in the back end to manage, people that might be signing into the website or getting mass emails from them. And we show them how that stuff works. We teach them as we go. And that works out really, really well. The other side of our business is an enterprise level, e-learning and membership company. We can, think of the biggest retailer that you can think of in a vertical, like the biggest boat selling, dealership network in the country, the biggest motorcycle selling, dealership network in the country. Maybe think of, we did work for Paul Mitchell, Paul Mitchell Beauty Schools. We did work for them. We helped get their website together in Tennessee. Again, I'm going to drive back to messaging. Even with those giant platforms, I'm going to tell you, we blew one. We blew it. I know that we blew it. And every now and then I think, is that still working? Is that still a possibility? It's been 3 years. Maybe it's still a possibility. But there's a giant company. They sell the most of whatever in the country. And it was a big job. And we quoted somewhere in the $250,000 range to help them with their website. And I think if I would have simplified the offer, I could have kept the money where it was at. But I think if I would have simplified the offer, we'd probably already be working on it. Instead, what we got into, because it was an e-learning project, we got into a comparison of my proposed e-learning platform against their existing e-learning platform. And it became started to become a question of checking these boxes, right? Features and benefits, features and benefits, features and benefits, features and benefits. The features and benefits, and I'm looking back on this right now, and I'm going to be very transparent with you because I want you to understand the depth of where I'm going with this. We got into a features and benefits tit for tat kind of conversation about the platform I proposed versus the platform they're currently on. And it created a layer of confusion with the client that became very difficult for me to overcome. And they started focusing on, no, it's got to be a direct match for match. And it doesn't have to be a direct match for match. E-learning is e-learning. And so we're coming at them, and even at $250,000 for this whole project, we're offering them a savings of probably $180,000 to $200,000 a year. Think about that. $180,000 to $200,000 a year that they could save if they went with our option. And it's still a full-service e-learning platform. But does it work exactly the way the old system worked? And would they have to train their staff how to use the new system? And you know what? We should have kept the whole conversation much more simple. Instead of going into, a line item tit for tat, checking the boxes, we should have come at it like, here's how you manage all of your learning content. Here's how you manage all of your students. This is all included in the package, and we can have this done for you in the next 60 to 90 days and save you $200,000 a year. That should have been the pitch. And if that was the pitch, I'm here to tell you, I believe our agency would already be working on it. I really believe that we'd already be working on that one. And just to be clear, I'm telling you how I dropped the ball on that one, because I want to point to those other examples I showed you at the beginning of the call and go back to simplicity. Changing the messaging can yield results. So if you are a business and you find yourself hitting like this plateau, like things were great, now we hit this kind of a plateau, and our sales aren't really going up anymore, I want you to think back a little bit and go, wait a minute, when we were ramping up, we were still kind of cutting our teeth, or we were still coming up with new technologies, or but then think about when that plateau happened. When that plateau happened, did somehow you become an expert in the space and become super knowledgeable and start oversharing with clients about the details of how you do things? And if that's the case, maybe look at driving back to think about those earlier conversations, those earlier closing meetings, and how simple they were, and the success results that you got. And maybe you can drive back towards a little bit more simple of an approach. Now, don't get me wrong. I there's just not enough time when you do these lives to cover everything, but there are standalone one-off instances where people require more information. There's certain people that want to go deep. There's certain people that need the details. How do you know that? How do you know that those are the people? Ask them. Ask them. Hey, we can keep this simple. I can tell you the features and benefits real quick. This is how much it costs. We can have it done in 30 days. Boom. Easy peasy. I want to get a driveway poured in front of my house. I have a neighbor doing that right now. I want to get a driveway poured in front of my house. Okay, great. Is it going to be asphalt? Is it going to be concrete? How thick is it going to be? How long is it going to take? Can I drive and park my truck on there without it cracking? Right? Like if if a delivery truck made a U-turn in my driveway, would the driveway crack in half? No, it'll be strong enough to do that. Perfect, done. How much is it going to cost? Great, get her done. Instead, people are going to say, well, what is the strength per square inch of the concrete that you'll be using, and what is the breakdown of aggregate to whatever the dust stuff is, and how much sand is going to be in it. Like, customers aren't going to ask that kind of question. So if you're trying to sell driveways and you're going in with like, this is the percentage of sand, this is the tensile strength, this is what the compression strength is per square inch, this is what people can be like, I should probably look at some other offers then, and I should probably see what they say for the details. If you overshare, you're going to confuse people. It's like shopping for a computer at Best Buy. You walk into Best Buy, hey, I just need to buy a laptop. Next thing you know, there's 85 laptops in front of you, all with different specifications, and now you've got no idea what you need to do your job. You just needed a laptop, and now it's turned into something confusing, right? That's what I'm talking about. I'm here to tell you, the new way that we've been messaging and keeping things simple and just driving to the questions asked versus injecting questions into our customer, the more success we're having. Now, that is not to shield people from required information to make a good decision. That's a whole different subject altogether. But what I'm here to say is, like in my space, someone says, oh, we need a web. Oh my gosh. I just went to a business yesterday, and they sell musical instruments. And so they sell musical instruments. The guy introduces himself to me. I needed to buy a component for my son's electric guitar. I bought it. And then I said, I was really confused when I bought from another source. They didn't tell me I would need this little piece, blah, blah, blah. I said, I'm not a musician and I don't know anything about guitars. So I'm kind of frustrated that they didn't have that information provided to me when I bought that other thing. I make websites for a living. I don't play guitars. As soon as I said that, he goes, oh my goodness, we're looking for a website. I hung out. I spoke to him for about a half an hour and this wasn't about technology. It was about communication. It was about the process. What would the process look like to have a mom and pop, musician store compared to a big chain outlet with tons of e-commerce on it? So how would you maintain your mom and pop feel through a website, and not just consistently lose to the big box store, right? How would you do that? And so we had kind of a quick conversation, but that quick conversation was more about like, well, there are some solutions to that. Here's some things that you could try. Hey, I would encourage you to come to the WordPress meetup if you have questions about, how the internet works or how to get things launched. But if you're looking for an agency or a vendor to just give you, simple, straightforward product and advice, we're here for you. Here's how you get in touch with me. And now guess what we're going to start working on? Bada boom, bada bing. All right. Keep the messaging simple. Keep it simple. Answer the questions the client has, but don't inject additional questions into them. Answer what they have. Don't create new questions. Yes, cover the basics of your business. Don't lead people astray by omission. That's important. That's really important. But there's a lot of stuff that doesn't matter. It's like faith. Folks, I'm going to wrap up in 4 or 5 minutes. So I promise you, if you got this far, you can get to the end. I want to share something with you. To me, it's like faith. When I go to church or when I'm talking to people about my faith, I'll generally stay within the essentials of faith, right? So as a Christian, Christ came down, became man, lived a perfect life, gave us some great examples, right? Died, raised, and now is at the right hand of the Father. His sacrifice for us is what gives us a pathway to eternity with him. And that's, to me, those are the essentials of faith. Other people might be like, oh, well, what about the Gnostics? What about this? What about Revelation and entomology and the end times? And okay, that's not the essentials of faith. The essentials of faith are we were created, we sinned, we screwed up. In the Old Testament, God kept saying, do this. We did it. We stopped doing it. We got in trouble. And then he said, okay, I'll forgive you, but you got to do this. And we did it. And then we didn't. And then we got in trouble. So the Old Testament was a lot of doing. And then Jesus came. New Testament, Jesus came, put on skin, lived a sinless life, died for our sins as a living sacrifice, and was resurrected. And now it's done. So the Old Testament was about doing things, and the New Testament celebrates it's done. We have a pathway to heaven. We just believe in Christ. We accept him, and up we go. Essentials of faith over all of the other things. Okay. And so gosh, we went to a sermon on Sunday, and Sean was speaking at our church. And he was just giving the simplest of messages from a really great passage in 1 Peter. And a guy in the row in front of me, a grown man, a big person, I'm guessing construction worker, a big guy, right? Has like a breakdown, like a life-changing moment right there in the seat in front of me. Now, he was a seat in front of me and down a couple. And that's when I saw the church be the church. The guy sitting behind him put his hands on him and prayed for him. The girl next to him put her hand on his shoulder. You're like, hey, are you okay? Dude, you okay? Hey, we're here for you. That's the church being the church. That's the simplest of messages. Like to see that, to be there and go, that is the simplest messaging. That simple message from the pulpit stage, whatever we call it. Simplest of messages from that. Here's what the book says. Here's a breakdown of that. We're called to be with him. We are chosen by him. We are called by him. We're part of a royal priesthood. We're part of a chosen race, and we are all called up. It's not exclusive. No one's left out. Everybody's invited, but you accept the invitation and you're in, right? And this guy hears this message from the essentials of faith, the absolute core, the gospel message, hears it, has like this breakdown, and it's a church moment where people gather around him to comfort him, edify him, strengthen him, bring him up. That to me is a perfect example of what I've just described for the last half hour. Maybe I should start out with the messages about faith in the beginning and less about the business at the beginning, because it took me 30 minutes to tell you about simplified messaging yielding results. And now in 3 minutes, I've been able to tell you about the message in church on Sunday and how I watched it completely restore a man standing right in front of me. It was phenomenal. It was phenomenal to watch. All right, folks, That's it for today. That is it for today. I know I talked a lot. I shared a lot with the screen shares. If you're coming in late, go find the replay. The replay's on YouTube. It's on the Mañana No Mas Facebook page. It's in Rumble. It's on X. But simplified messaging is yielding results. And so I want to encourage you to strategize and figure out ways to be more simple in your messaging so you alienate less clients and you make more money. I've said ever since the pandemic, we need to find the opportunities within the obstacles, the opportunities within the obstacles. And we're seeing some obstacles right now. We're living in a kind of crazy time. So maybe simplicity is your way over some obstacles and to generate some revenue. Have a wonderful day. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.